At my brother's wedding, everything looked perfect. White roses, soft music, laughing children. But all that beauty collapsed the moment my eyes landed on my daughter, Lyra. She was sitting at the kids' table in her lavender flower girl dress, legs swinging, waiting patiently like the sweet 8-year-old she is. Every other child had a full plate of hot food. Chicken tenders, mashed potatoes, vegetables, warm rolls. Lyra had a paper plate with 6 saltine crackers. And a small cup of tap water. No real meal. No drink option. Nothing. When she looked up at me, she tried to smile like nothing was wrong. "Mommy, did they forget mine?" Her voice was so small, and she said it so softly, as if she was afraid to bother anyone. My stomach dropped. I'm a pediatric nurse. My job is literally to protect children. Yet somehow, I hadn't seen this coming at my own brother's wedding. I went straight to the catering staff to ask what happened. I expected someone to say, "We're so sorry, that was a mistake." But nobody said that. Nobody even looked confused. Instead, the wedding coordinator, Brenda, quietly pulled me aside. Her face said everything before she even spoke. She handed me the printed seating chart, the one used to give instructions to the caterers. Next to Lyra's name, written in looping, unmistakably feminine handwriting, was a note that froze me in place. Allergy not real. Attention seeker. Crackers and water only. My daughter has a real, documented egg allergy. Mild, yes, but real. And even if she didn't, what kind of adult targets a child on purpose? I stared at those words, feeling the world tilt. I could hear the reception music in the background, soft, elegant, completely disconnected from the cruelty I was holding in my hands. My hands shook. My breathing changed. It felt like betrayal punched me straight in the chest. Because that handwriting, I recognized it instantly. It belonged to the bride. Serafina. She had planned this. She had singled out an 8-year-old on one of the happiest days of her life just to send a message. Petty, unnecessary, and cruel. I didn't shout. I didn't storm into the ballroom. I didn't confront her in front of everyone. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. A picture of Lyra's plate. A picture of the crackers and water. A picture of the note in Serafina's handwriting. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. Then I returned to Lyra, knelt beside her, and told her we'd get something good to eat. I kept my voice calm because she deserved peace, not my panic. She deserved a mother who could hold it together while deciding what came next. But inside, something changed permanently. That picture, the plate, the crackers, the water, the cruel note, became the weapon that would destroy the perfect life Serafina thought she was beginning. And it all started with 6 crackers and a cup of tap water. My brother Cale was never just a brother to me. He was the one person I believed would never hurt me, not even by accident. Growing up, we were always close, the kind of siblings people joked were inseparable. Even after we became adults and life got busy, that closeness never changed. If anything, it grew stronger, especially when everything in my own life began to fall apart. When my marriage ended, I felt like the ground under me had cracked open. I was scared, tired, and unsure how I would raise Lyra alone. But Cale didn't hesitate. He showed up the same night I called him in tears. He didn't ask for explanations or complain about the late hour. He just walked in, hugged me, and said, "You're not doing this alone. I'm here." And he meant it. He helped me pack every box and moved us into a tiny apartment that felt safe only because he was there. For months, he came by nearly every day. Sometimes he brought groceries. Sometimes he cooked. Sometimes he didn't say anything at all and simply sat with me while Lyra played. He made sure I never felt abandoned. To Lyra, he wasn't just Uncle Cale. He was her superhero. He wore silly hats at her tea parties, carried her on his shoulders in the park, and taught her how to ride a bike, even though she kept crashing into the mailbox. Every time she fell, he picked her up, dusted her off, and said, "Try again, little star." She trusted him in a way only a child can trust someone who has never let them down. He was there for her school plays, cheering louder than anyone. He remembered her allergy better than some parents remember their own children's birthdays. For years, he was the steady presence in our small, rebuilding family. Whenever she had a nightmare, she asked me to call him, because Uncle K makes the monsters go away. I watched him love her with the same gentleness he once showed me when we were kids. It felt like I had 2 pillars holding me up, my daughter and my brother. And because of that, I never thought twice about trusting him with anything, including my heart, my fears, and my child. That is why what happened at his wedding hurt in a way I still struggle to fully understand. The woman he married had never liked me, but I always believed Cale would protect Lyra the way he always had. I believed he would see through anyone who tried to hurt us. For years, he proved that I mattered. For years, he proved Lyra mattered. I held on to that, which is why the wedding betrayal didn't feel like a simple mistake. It felt like a deep cut from the one person I never imagined would stand by and let it happen. Because when someone who has always protected you suddenly doesn't, that pain hits in a completely different way. Serafina entered our lives slowly, like someone slipping into a room without making a sound. At first, she seemed perfect, well-dressed, well-spoken, always smiling. Cale met her at a work event, and within weeks he was talking about her non-stop. I wanted to be happy for him. He had supported me for years, so of course he deserved love too. But it didn't take long before I noticed things that made my stomach twist. The first time she met Lyra, my daughter handed her a drawing she had worked on the whole morning. It was a picture of Cale, Serafina, and Lyra holding hands. Serafina looked at it for a few seconds and said, "Oh, cute," then placed it on the side table as if it meant nothing. Lyra's face fell, and I told myself Serafina was just distracted. But even then, something felt off. Whenever we all went out together, Serafina made small comments that didn't sound like jokes to me. When Lyra ordered from the kids' menu, Serafina would say, "She's so picky," even though she wasn't. When I reminded the waiter about Lyra's egg allergy, Serafina rolled her eyes just enough for me to notice. She once whispered, "You worry too much, Jovi. Kids exaggerate." She said it with a smile, but the tone was sharp. I tried to ignore it. I tried to stay calm. But the comments kept coming. Little remarks about how Lyra acted too sensitive, or how she needed thicker skin. Sometimes she spoke as if Lyra wasn't even in the room. And every time I brought it up, Cale brushed it aside. He said Serafina was just joking, that I was reading too much into things. But I saw how Lyra started pulling her hand away whenever Serafina reached for her. I saw how she stayed quiet whenever Serafina joined us. Kids sense things adults try to hide. Lyra felt her dislike long before Cale ever noticed anything was wrong. As the months passed, Cale changed too. He still loved Lyra, but he wasn't as present. He canceled our family nights more often. When Serafina didn't want to come over, he didn't show up either. He seemed distracted, distant, almost as if he was trying to impress Serafina every second of the day. One evening, when we were celebrating Lyra's good report card, Serafina looked at her and said, "You don't need people clapping for you over basic things." She said it quietly, but Lyra heard. My daughter placed her certificate on the table and didn't smile again for the rest of the night. That was the moment my unease grew into something heavier. This woman didn't just dislike me, she had something against my child. Something personal. Something cold. I tried talking to Cale again, but he defended Serafina every time. Each conversation pushed us a little further apart. It felt like I was losing him, inch by inch, to someone who didn't even try to hide how she felt about my daughter. Serafina didn't arrive in our lives like a storm. She arrived like poison, slow, quiet, and almost invisible at first. But once it started spreading, everything began to change. The morning of the wedding felt warm and peaceful, the kind of day where nothing seems like it could go wrong. The sun was gentle, the air was cool, and everything looked soft and beautiful. Lyra woke up earlier than usual, too excited to sleep. She kept spinning in her lavender flower girl dress, checking herself in every mirror she passed. Her joy made the whole house feel lighter. She loved Cale more than anyone, and she kept repeating, "I can't wait for Uncle K to see me." The way she smiled made me believe the day would be perfect. I did her hair with tiny flowers, and she sat so still because she wanted everything to be just right. When she finally looked at herself, she whispered, "I hope he thinks I look like a princess." At the venue, everything was decorated beautifully. Soft music played, white chairs lined the aisle, and fresh flowers were everywhere. Guests talked quietly, taking pictures, enjoying the atmosphere. Nothing felt rushed or tense. It was calm, peaceful, almost dreamy. When Cale arrived, Lyra ran to him, and his face lit up. He picked her up, spun her around, and told her she looked perfect. In that moment, nothing felt broken. No voices in my head warned me. No signs told me anything bad was coming. All I saw was my daughter happy, and my brother happy, and the beautiful day they were starting together. The ceremony itself was like something from a picture book. The sun hit the bride's dress just right, guests whispered, "Wow," and the whole scene looked like it belonged in a magazine. Lyra walked down the aisle dropping petals, taking slow steps like she practiced. Everyone smiled at her, and she smiled back with so much pride that my eyes watered. When the vows were read and everyone clapped, Lyra clapped the loudest. She tugged my hand and said, "This is the best day ever." And for a moment I believed her. The ceremony ended with laughter and hugs, and people headed toward the reception full of excitement. Nothing felt wrong. Nothing felt strange. The whole place carried the feeling of joy, like nothing could disturb it. Even I let myself relax, thinking maybe the small things that bothered me about Serafina didn't matter today. Maybe we could move forward. Maybe she could learn to care about Lyra the way Kale did. As we walked toward the reception area, I watched Lyra bounce on her toes, still holding her flower basket. She talked about the music, the pretty decorations, and how she hoped the kids' table would be fun. She trusted the day completely. So did I. Everything looked soft and safe. Everything felt gentle. The world, for a little while, seemed full of warmth. But the calm can be the most dangerous part. It makes the storm feel even colder when it finally hits. When we entered the reception hall, the music was soft, lights warm, and the tables beautifully decorated. Everything looked inviting. Lyra held my hand and walked toward the kids' section, excited to sit with the other children. She kept looking around, smiling at the balloons and the colorful plates. But the moment we reached her seat, something inside me stopped. Every child at the table had a full, steaming plate in front of them. Chicken tenders, mashed potatoes, macaroni, vegetables, warm rolls. Their plates looked bright and festive, the kind of meal kids get excited about. Some were already eating, laughing with food in their mouths. But Lyra's spot looked completely different. In front of her was a thin paper plate with 6 plain saltine crackers placed in a line, like someone didn't even bother to arrange them. Next to it was a tiny cup of tap water. No colors. No warm food. Nothing to make a child feel included. Lyra froze. Her smile faded slowly, like a candle going out in the wind. She looked down at the plate, then at the other children's plates, then back at hers. Her eyebrows pulled together and she whispered, "Mom, did they forget mine?" The uncertainty in her voice made my chest tighten. A few of the kids at the table noticed, staring at Lyra's crackers with confusion. One girl even asked her, "Why don't you have food?" Lyra didn't answer. She just pressed her lips together and stared at the crackers, trying not to cry. She didn't want to cause trouble. She never does. I felt a cold dread crawl up my spine. This wasn't a simple mistake. Nobody gives a child crackers when surrounded by full meals unless it's intentional. My eyes swept the table again, looking for any sign that maybe this was an accident, anything to make it make sense. But there was nothing. Every plate except hers was complete. Lyra reached for a cracker with shaky fingers, maybe trying to pretend she was okay. Watching her do that broke something inside me. She shouldn't have had to pretend, especially not today, especially not at a wedding where she had played such an important role. I knelt next to her and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "Sweetheart, you don't have to eat this," I said gently. But she just looked at me with big, uncertain eyes and whispered, "Is it because of my allergy?" Her question hit me like ice. She thought this was her fault. I told her it wasn't, but my voice felt tight. I could feel something heavy forming in my stomach, a weight that made it hard to breathe. I knew this was done on purpose. Someone had chosen to single out a child who was only there to celebrate her uncle. As I stood up, the celebration happening all around us felt distant and unreal. The laughter, the music, the clinking glasses. None of it matched what was happening at that table. Because while everyone else enjoyed the party, my daughter sat quietly in front of 6 crackers and a cup of water, carrying a humiliation she never deserved. I walked away from the kids' table with my heart pounding so hard it felt like everyone in the room could hear it. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. My first thought was the catering team. Maybe someone made a mistake. Maybe there was a mix-up. I held on to that tiny shred of hope as I searched for the wedding coordinator, Brenda. I found her near the kitchen doors, checking her clipboard. She looked busy, but the moment she saw my face, her expression softened. "Jovi, is everything all right?" she asked quietly. I didn't want to make a scene. I didn't want to draw attention. So I stepped closer and told her, in a low voice, what I saw at the kids' table. The crackers. The water. Lyra's missing meal. Brenda's eyes widened, and for a second, she looked shocked, truly shocked. That reaction alone told me this wasn't a simple mistake. She guided me behind a divider, so we were out of sight. She kept glancing around like she didn't want anyone else to overhear. "Let me check something," she whispered. Her voice was tight, and she looked uncomfortable, almost guilty. She opened her binder and flipped through the pages until she found the seating chart. Her fingers hesitated before turning it toward me. "This is what we were given," she said softly. I looked down, expecting to see some kind of allergy note. Something logical. Something that didn't make my stomach twist. Instead, I saw a short message scribbled in handwriting I recognized instantly. Allergy not real. Attention seeker. Crackers and water only. The words hit me like a slap. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment everything around me went muffled. I could hear people laughing across the hall, the music playing, glasses clinking, but it all sounded far away, like I was underwater. I stared at those words again, hoping I was reading wrong. But I wasn't. It was her handwriting. Serafina's. My hands started shaking. My vision blurred, and I had to blink hard to clear it. I wasn't angry yet. The anger would come later. In that moment, it was something else, something heavy, something that made my knees feel weak. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't thoughtlessness. This was cruelty. Cold, planned cruelty. Brenda looked at me with pity in her eyes, and I could tell she wanted to apologize, to explain, but she didn't know what to say. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "We followed the instructions we were given." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The old me, the emotional me, would have marched into that reception and screamed. But something inside me shifted. A calm, sharp focus settled in. This wasn't the moment to explode. This was the moment to think. Without saying a word, I pulled out my phone and took a picture of the note. My hands trembled, but I forced myself to hold the camera still. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I documented everything, quietly, carefully, because I knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the truth. I watched Lyra trying so hard to stay brave, and something inside me tightened. She was holding everything in, pretending she was fine, but I could see the fear in her eyes. At first, anger rose in me fast and hot. I wanted to shout, to throw something, to demand answers. But I forced myself to breathe. Loud anger would not help us. It would only make things worse. I needed to think. I needed to act with a clear head. So I pushed the anger down and let something colder take its place. Calm. Focus. A plan was forming quietly in my mind. If there was going to be revenge, it would not be wild or messy. It would be slow, controlled, and sharp. I wanted the people who hurt us to feel it in a way they could never forget. I wanted them to wonder when it started and how they never saw it coming. But first, I had to take care of Lyra. I sat beside her and spoke softly, letting my voice steady her. I told her everything would be okay, and I meant it. I guided her to get some food because she hadn't eaten properly since everything happened. Watching her take her first real bite in hours made something inside me settle. If I could make her feel safe, even for a moment, then I could do everything else too. I stayed close to her, held her hand, and made sure she knew she wasn't alone. Even when I felt my phone burning in my pocket, the photo, the proof of what they did, I kept my face calm. I didn't let her see the storm inside me. I smiled when I needed to. I laughed when it fit. I acted like everything was normal because that was the role I had to play tonight. They would not see me break. They would not see me plan. All through the night, while everyone believed I was relaxed and happy, my mind was moving quietly. Every smile I gave was a part of my strategy. Every gentle word I spoke was a way to keep things steady until I was ready. I watched the room, paid attention, memorized every detail that could help me later. Revenge wasn't just about striking back. It was about choosing the right moment, the right action, the right weakness. The photo stayed in my mind like a fire. It reminded me why I couldn't let this go. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about Lyra, her fear, her pain, her effort to be strong. I would not let that be ignored. By the time the night grew quiet, my decision was complete. I would act, but with precision, not noise. I would move slowly, step by step, until the people who hurt us felt the weight of what they did. And as Lyra finally rested beside me, I felt the cold, steady power of my resolve settle deep inside my chest. I wasn't angry anymore. I was ready. 3 days later, when Kale and Serafina were far away on their honeymoon, I finally made my move. I had been waiting for the right moment, and this was it. I didn't want noise. I didn't want drama. I wanted the truth to hit quietly, directly, and without warning. Posting the photo online would have been loud and messy, and people would have turned it into gossip. I didn't want gossip. I wanted facts. I wanted the truth to land in the hands of the people who needed to see it most. So I sat at my table with the printed photo in front of me. Seeing it on paper made everything feel sharper, more real. I didn't let myself get angry again. I kept my heart steady and my mind focused. I wrote a short letter, nothing emotional or dramatic, just clear, simple facts. I explained what happened, what the photo showed, and how it revealed the kind of person Serafina really was. No insults, no extra words. Just the truth. I knew the truth was powerful enough on its own. I folded the letter, placed it with the photo, and sealed the first envelope. Then I prepared the second. And the third. This wasn't going to only Kale. He needed to know, yes, but he wasn't the only one whose life was tied to Serafina's choices. Their parents, Gareth and Marlowe, deserved to see the truth too. They were people who cared about reputation, honesty, and family values. They always talked about integrity, about doing the right thing. They needed to see what their son had married. I addressed the envelopes carefully, making sure every detail was correct. I didn't rush. Each package had a purpose. The one for Kale held the truth about the woman beside him. The one for Gareth and Marlowe held the truth about the daughter-in-law they had proudly welcomed. And the last one, the most important one, was for Serafina's employer. A prestigious place, known for strict rules and high expectations. A place where character mattered. A place where a single mistake could cost someone everything. I wrote the employer's address slowly, feeling a cold calm settle inside me. I wasn't trying to destroy her life. I wasn't acting out of wild anger. I was simply revealing who she truly was. What people chose to do with that truth was up to them. When all the envelopes were ready, I walked to the post office. Every step felt steady, controlled. I handed the packages over without hesitation. Once they left my hands, there was no turning back. And I didn't want to turn back. As I walked home, I felt no guilt, no doubt. This was my first strike, quiet, clean, and precise. I didn't need to speak. The truth would speak for me. And soon, the people who thought they could hurt me and walk away would learn what it felt like to be exposed in the most honest, undeniable way. I watched as Kale opened the envelope, expecting something small or unimportant, but the moment he saw the photo, his face changed. He froze, staring at it as if the truth had hit him like a wall. Everything he thought he knew about Serafina fell apart in an instant. He had married her thinking she was loyal, kind, someone he could trust. Now he saw her clearly, her lies, her greed, her complete disregard for him. I saw him turn to her in the hotel room, holding the photo like it was a mirror showing her real self. "Serafina, what is this?" His voice was quiet at first, but the tension in it grew sharper with every word. Panic flashed across her face. She tried to grab the photo from him, but her hands shook. I could see the fear in her eyes, the way she was unraveling before him. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, her voice tight and desperate. But Kale's eyes never left her. The calm he had at the beginning disappeared, replaced by a cold clarity. He could see her lies, her carefully built facade, and he wouldn't be fooled anymore. Her panic only grew as I watched. She tried to explain, to manipulate, to hide, but it was too late. Then it happened. She let it slip. "I married you for your inheritance," she blurted, her voice rising in fear and anger. "I knew your uncle was sick and rich. I didn't marry you for love." I felt a quiet satisfaction as I watched Kale's face go pale. Everything finally made sense to him. The fake smiles, the subtle manipulation, the way she had acted around him. My letter had hinted at this, a shadow of the truth, and now it had come alive through her own confession. The secret I had suspected, the secret I had wanted him to know, had been revealed. Kale's hands trembled slightly as he stood there, staring at her. The hotel room felt smaller, heavier, charged with the weight of the truth. Serafina backed away, desperate, but there was no escaping what she had done. Every lie, every hidden motive was now laid bare. She had no control, no power, no defense. Finally, Kale spoke, his voice steady but sharp. "You lied to me about everything. How could you?" I could see her anger and panic mixing with shame. The honeymoon she had dreamed of as a celebration of their new life together had become a nightmare. Her secrets were exposed, her lies shattered, and the man she had tried to deceive fully awake to the truth. I watched in silence as the room filled with the harsh reality of her choices. Kale had seen her clearly, and nothing would ever let her hide again. The unraveling had begun, and there was no turning back. Kale returned home alone, leaving Serafina behind in a foreign city where her lies and secrets were already exposed. The photo and my letter had done their work. Word spread quickly, and her reputation in her professional field collapsed almost immediately. Colleagues whispered, opportunities disappeared, and the respect she had built over years was gone. I didn't need to do anything else. Truth had done its job quietly, precisely, without me raising a hand. When Kale walked through the door, he was silent. His eyes were heavy with disappointment and hurt. I could feel the weight of what had happened pressing on him. He had loved her, trusted her, and now he was left facing the reality of her betrayal. I stayed quiet, letting him process everything. There was no need to explain further. The evidence had already spoken, and it spoke loudly enough. Later, I sat with Kale and Lyra in the living room. The room was quiet, the only sound the faint ticking of the clock. Kale's head was bowed, and I could see how deeply he was affected. Finally, he spoke in a low, broken voice, trying to apologize for trusting someone who didn't deserve it. I should have seen it sooner, he said, almost a whisper. I glanced at Lyra, and we shared a quiet understanding. There was nothing left to do but accept the reality. Our family felt fractured, and the trust that had existed before was fragile, almost impossible to repair fully. But for the first time, everything was clear. The lies, the manipulation, the false smiles, they were all out in the open, and the truth could no longer be hidden. I felt a strange sense of calm, a quiet satisfaction. My revenge had never been about hurting anyone physically or causing chaos. It had been about revealing the truth and letting it deliver its own justice. Kale stayed with us that evening, humbled and heartbroken, processing everything he had learned. Lyra leaned against me, tired but safe, and I watched him carefully. The silence in the room was heavy, but it was the kind of silence that comes after a storm. One where reality is clear, lessons are learned, and justice has quietly been served. In that quiet moment, I felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The lies were gone, the truth was out, and the consequences had fallen exactly where they were meant to. I didn't need to shout or act violently. My careful, precise plan had worked. The truth had done everything I wanted it to do perfectly. Do you think Kale did the right thing leaving Serafina behind? Or should he have tried to forgive her? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe with the notification bell for more stories like this.